The case that shook society, a crime of betrayal and treachery beyond imagination. At the center of it was a young woman named Noura, who turned the life of a hard-working young man named Mostafa into a tragedy that ended in a gruesome crime. Egypt, Giza Governorate, Abu Rawash area. Year 2017. Mostafa was a kind, hard-working young man, living with his humble family who raised him and his siblings on morals and hard work. After graduating from industrial school, his father bought him a microbus so he could work on it and help support the family's expenses. Mostafa's relationship with his family was strong and full of trust. At 26, his mother began encouraging him to get married. At first, he refused the idea, but he completely changed his mind when he saw a beautiful girl passing by in the neighborhood. He asked about her and found out her name was Nurhan, but everyone called her Noura. She was 18 years old and a distant relative. People in the area described her as angelic because of her beauty. Mostafa and his family proposed to her. Her family immediately agreed, and so did she. They agreed to marry quickly, since Mostafa already had an apartment ready in the family home. The agreement was that the engagement would not last more than 6 months. During that time, everything seemed normal, but Mostafa's mother's heart was uneasy. She sat with Noura and asked her directly, "If you're not comfortable, we can end this with no embarrassment." But Noura assured her that she was happy with the engagement and that Mostafa was a responsible man. After only 7 months, the wedding took place, and Noura moved into her husband's apartment on the second floor of the family house. But from the very first night, tension appeared in Noura's behavior, and she seemed unusual. The second day seemed calmer, and the couple acted normally. But in truth, that was the last time Mostafa was intimate with Noura. On the 4th day, Noura began to cause problems for no reason. On the 5th day, she left the bedroom and moved into the children's room, locking the door and refusing to share a normal life with her husband. Mostafa tried to talk to her to understand her behavior, but he didn't want to expose the issue to his family. Still, his mother sensed that her son was unhappy in his marriage. 2 weeks after the wedding, Mostafa's family heard a loud fight between him and Noura. When they went upstairs to check, they discovered she had gathered her belongings and was sitting in a separate room. For the second time, Mostafa's mother sat with Noura and told her, "If you're not happy with my son, we can end the marriage respectfully." But Noura repeated the same response. She was just stressed and had no issue with her husband. Days passed in the same routine. Mostafa left for work from morning until evening, came home exhausted, had dinner with Noura, and then she would lock herself away in her room. After a full month of marriage, the surprise came. Noura told Mostafa she was pregnant. News that should have made him happy instead shocked him, because he had only been intimate with her once at the very beginning of the marriage. Within days, Noura asked Mostafa to arrange an abortion, claiming she was unsettled in the marriage and didn't want to bring a child into a tense home. Mostafa told his mother, who encouraged him to agree so as not to wrong a child who had no choice in his fate. Noura had the abortion and then moved back to her parents' house for 15 days. By then, the total marriage duration was 45 days, during which Mostafa had not tasted happiness. After 2 weeks, Noura called her husband asking him to take her back, saying she missed him and their home. But once she returned, she repeated the same behavior, isolating herself in a separate room. Then strange incidents began. Mostafa drank juice, felt sharp pain, and was rushed to the hospital for stomach pumping. Another time, he discovered his car brakes had been sabotaged, the brake fluid deliberately drained. On yet another occasion, the engine oil was emptied after its plug had been removed. All were clear attempts to threaten his life. The repeated incidents left Mostafa confused, especially since his car had just been serviced. 2 days later, his father noticed from the balcony a strange young man approaching Mostafa's car. When the man realized he was being watched, he ran away quickly. The father went down to look for him but couldn't find him, convincing himself it might have just been his imagination. Another 2 weeks passed, making the marriage exactly 80 days old. One night, Mostafa's parents heard the sound of a violent quarrel and banging on the door of the room where Noura had locked herself. Mostafa was pounding on the door, demanding his wife come out, while his parents tried to calm him. Suddenly, they were shocked to see Noura standing outside in the street. When asked how she got down, she said she opened the room window, jumped onto the opposite rooftop, and went down through the inner stairway to the street. Everyone was astonished. But no one suspected bad intentions. They assumed she acted out of fear of her husband. The truth, however, was far darker. 5 days later, 85 days into the marriage, Mostafa left for work as usual in the morning and returned at 7 p.m. He had dinner with his family, then went upstairs with Noura to their apartment and shut the door. At 11 p.m., his mother went up to ask him something, but found complete silence. She knocked, and Noura replied that Mostafa had gone to bed early because he was tired from work. Mostafa's mother noticed that Noura quickly closed the door again, then offered her a glass of juice, which she refused. She returned to her own apartment, her heart full of worry. At 2 a.m., the parents heard a loud thud coming from their son's apartment, then silence again. Early in the morning, they found the apartment door open and his car still parked outside, which alarmed them. Mostafa's father went up to call for his son and Noura, but no one answered. He noticed the apartment was strangely disorganized, as if it had been broken into. He entered the bedroom and found Mostafa lying on the bed, covered with a blanket. When he pulled it back, the horror was revealed. His son's face was smeared with blood, and strange fluids were coming out of his mouth. The father screamed until the neighbors gathered. The health office was called, and the doctor confirmed it was not a natural death but a poisoning murder. They looked for Noura but couldn't find her in the apartment. When they called her, she claimed she had gone to the market in the morning, then to her parents' house, leaving Mostafa asleep in good condition. When she heard of his death, she rushed back in apparent shock. Meanwhile, the family notified the police, who arrived immediately to examine the crime scene. The initial inspection suggested the apartment had been robbed, given the mess, but investigators quickly noted Noura was not trustworthy. Mostafa's body was sent for autopsy, while forensic teams lifted fingerprints. The surprise was a strange fingerprint belonging neither to Mostafa nor Noura. It was also revealed that nothing had been stolen, and the mess was staged to make it look like a burglary. The autopsy report revealed the horrific truth. Mostafa had ingested a large dose of sleeping pills mixed with deadly pesticide. His body also showed signs of blunt force trauma and multiple bruises. The police took statements from his parents and wife, then left. But only hours later, they returned to arrest Noura, armed with strong evidence against her. When confronted, Noura broke down and confessed she had killed her husband, but she wasn't alone. She had an accomplice, a 22-year-old man named Amr. Investigations revealed Noura had been in a relationship with Amr before marriage, but her father rejected him, seeing him as irresponsible. Under her father's pressure, she married Mostafa against her will, but she couldn't forget Amr. From the first day of marriage, she thought only of how to meet her lover. She devised a strange plan. She picked fights with her husband to leave the bedroom and move into another room overlooking the street, allowing Amr to climb in at night. Every night she would drug Mostafa's food so he'd fall into a deep sleep, then get ready and wait for Amr to enter through the window. They would spend the night together until dawn, then Amr would leave before Mostafa's parents woke up. This went on while the husband was unconscious. When Mostafa's mother hinted at the possibility of divorce, Noura wanted to agree, but fear of her father made her back down and continue her betrayal. Noura and Amr began planning to get rid of Mostafa permanently so they could marry. Their first idea was to sabotage his car so he'd die in an accident. But when that failed, they turned to poisoning him with food and drinks. Amr was the same young man Mostafa's father once saw tampering with a car. On the night of the crime, they agreed that Noura would put sleeping pills mixed with pesticide in Mostafa's food, while Amr entered as usual to complete their evil plan. Indeed, Mostafa ate his meal without knowing his end was near. That night, Amr came into the apartment while the poisoned husband lay unconscious. By chance, Mostafa's mother came upstairs to check on him and found Noura quickly opening and closing the door, saying her husband was asleep, while Amr was hidden inside. After midnight, Mostafa woke in severe pain from the pesticide, stumbled to the bathroom, and there he saw the shocking scene. He saw his wife Noura with Amr in an illicit act. Unable to bear it, he rushed at them in fury, but his body was weakened by poison. Noura struck him in the face with a gas cylinder key. Amr then attacked him with repeated blows until he collapsed. The violent noise Mostafa's parents heard that night was the sound of him falling after the assault. With the poison and sedatives in his system, Mostafa couldn't resist and quickly lost consciousness, dying within minutes. Amr and Noura then sat together as if nothing had happened, spending the rest of the night waiting for morning to stage the final part of their plan. At dawn, they ransacked the apartment to fake a burglary, then left at 6 a.m. with Noura heading to the market as she later claimed. But the evidence didn't spare them. Investigations uncovered the truth. This was nothing but a cold-blooded murder, orchestrated by the cheating wife and her lover. In interrogations, Noura confessed everything, how she drugged her husband daily, and how Amr would enter through the window to spend the night with her as if she weren't married. She admitted she knew it was not only a crime of murder but also a moral crime, yet she chose betrayal over loyalty to her marriage vows. Amr also confessed he had been in a relationship with Noura before her marriage, and her father's rejection fueled his desire for revenge against Mostafa, who was guiltless. Investigations confirmed that Noura feared facing her father with divorce, so she resorted to the separate room trick to welcome her lover every night through the window. It was also revealed that all the poisoning attempts and car sabotage were planned by both of them, in hopes of getting rid of Mostafa in a way that seemed natural. But on the night of the murder, Noura added pesticide to the sedative, causing Mostafa such pain that it woke him up. When he discovered her betrayal, the plan shifted from poisoning to a direct confrontation that ended with him being attacked and killed with a blunt object. Not only did Noura betray him, but she also struck him herself, while Amr helped finish him off until he died. After their confessions, no doubt remained. The evidence, fingerprints, and medical reports matched the gruesome details. In court, judges heard chilling details about a betrayal that began in the early days of marriage and ended in deliberate murder. The final verdict sentenced Noura and her lover Amr to death by hanging, convicted of premeditated murder. The ruling shocked the public. People couldn't believe an 18-year-old girl could commit such treachery and sacrifice her husband and his family for an illicit affair. Mostafa, the hard-working young man whose only mistake was trusting a treacherous wife, paid with his life for her weakness, betrayal, and her lover's greed. The story revealed the vilest form of betrayal, a wife cheating on her husband under the same roof, while his parents lived just below, unaware of what was happening to their son. And so, the curtain fell on one of Egypt's most horrifying cases of betrayal and treachery. The lesson remains clear: no crime goes unpunished, and no betrayal ends without a tragic fate.